Hi guys, Ah, ako nga pala si Ford 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 Triple Ford. Ah, Andito ako dahil may gusto akong i-share sa inyo. Ito yung mga napag-aralan ko nung time na nag-aaral pa ako bilang criminology. Ah, Itong i-share ko sa inyo, ito yung tungkol sa Code of Ethics. Ito yung Law Enforcement Code of Ethics ng PNP. Alam nyo kasi guys, nung nag-aaral pa ako, tuwing kukuha kami ng permit, lalo na nung nasa first year pa ako, bago nila i-release yung permit namin, kailangan mong i-ano sa harap yan, pakita mo na yung bang minimemorize namin. Kaya ganun, pag hindi mo memorize, hindi nila i-release yung permit ninyo. Ganun ang hirap sa amin guys nung nag-aaral pa ako. Ito ang una kong i-ano sa inyo. Ito yung tungkol sa Law Enforcer Code of Ethics. Malay nyo, kahit hindi nyo gawin ito sa mga school ninyo, kahit paano, pag may nakuha kayo sa akin, pagdating ng araw na mag-a-apply kayo o estudyante kayo ng criminology, ay may konti na kayo nalalaman tungkol dito sa ethics na ito. Ito yung Law Enforcer Code of Ethics guys. Okay. Law Enforcer Code of Ethics. As a law enforcement officer, my fundamental duty is to serve mankind, to safeguard lives and properties, to protect the innocent against deceptions, the weak against oppressions or intimidations, and the peaceful against violence or disorder, and to respect the constitutional right of all men to liberty, equality, and justice. I will keep my private life and sulite as an example to all. Maintain the courageous calm in the face of danger. Scorn or ridicule, develop self-restraint, and be constantly mindful for the welfare of others. Honest in thought, indeed, in both my personal and official life. I will be exemplary in obeying the law of the land and the regulations of my department. Whatever I see or hear of a confidential nature or that is confided to me in my official capacity will be kept ever secret unless revelation is necessary in the performance of my duty. I will never act officiously or permit personal feelings, prejudices, animosities, or offensive to influence my decision with no compromise for crime and with relentless persecution or criminal. I enforce the law courteously and appropriately without fear or favor malice, or I will never employing unnecessary force or violence and never accepting gratuities. I recognize the badge of my office as a symbol of public faith, and I accept it as a public trust to be held so long that I am true to the ethics of police service. I will constantly strive to achieve these objectives and ideals, dedicating myself before God to my chosen profession, law enforcement. Yan guys ang Law Enforcement Code of Ethics. Para sa mga criminology yan. Kaya mga criminology, dapat pag-aralan nyo ito. Ang sunod ko namang i-share sa inyo, ang gusto kong i-share naman sa inyo na ito yung konting napag-aralan ko naman tungkol sa law. Ito yung ay makikita sa RPC. Ito ay tinawag natin na Revised Penal Code of the Philippines, mga guys. Ang una kong iano sa inyo ito, ito kasing RPC, may book 1 and book 2 ito. Ang una kong i-share sa inyo dito sa book 1. Ito yung tungkol sa book 1, ito yung general provision regarding the date of effectiveness and enforcement application of the provision of this code, and regarding the offenses, persons criminally liable, and the penalties. Yan guys, ang book 1. Itong book 1 kasi, meron kasing ito preliminary title. Tapos may title 1, title 2, hanggang title 5 yan guys. Dito, yung title 1, meron itong 5 na chapter. Meron title 1, ang una dito, ito yung felony and circumstances with affect criminal liability. Number 2 dyan, yun yung may felonies dyan, tapos yung justifying circumstances, meron yung mitigating circumstances, meron yung aggravating circumstances, meron dyan yung alternative circumstances. Yan ang napapaloob sa title 1 guys. Pero dito muna tayo sa preliminary title. Okay guys, ito yung article 1. Ito yung date of effectiveness and application of the provision of this code. Ito yung time when act takes effect. Okay. This code shall take effect on the first day of January 1932. Application of each provision except as provided in this treatise and laws of preferential application. This provision shall be enforced not only within the Philippine archipelago, including its atmosphere, its interior waters, and maritime zone, but also outside of his jurisdiction, against those who, meron tayong 5 dito guys. Number 1 tayo, ito yung should commit an offense while on a Philippine ship or airship. Number 2, should forge or counterfeit any coins or currency note of the Philippine island, obligations and securities issued by the Philippine island. Then number 3, ito yung should liable to any act connected with the introduction into those island of the obligations and securities mentioned in the next preceding article. Yan guys, yung ano. Tapos number 3 yun, number 4 tayo. Ito yung uh, while being public officer or employee uh, should commit an offense in the exercise of their function or uh, should commit a crime against the national security and the law of the nation. Defined in Title 1 of Book 2. Yan guys, ang ano natin. Yan yung preliminary title natin. Tapos, sunod natin naman itong Title 1 siya. Ito yung felony and circumstances which affect criminal liability. Dito tayo sa chapter ito yung definition of felonies guys. Felonies tayo. Okay. Felonies. The following do not incur any criminal liability. Okay, felonies tayo. Act and emission punishable by law are felonies, delitos. Felony are committed not only by means of deceit, dolo, but also by means of fault, culpa. There is a deceit when the offender, when all the there is a deceit when all the elements necessary for each ano na tayo? Number 3. Okay. Ano ba yun? There is deceit when all the elements necessary for its execution. Teka lang guys. Okay. Ito pala yun. There is deceit when act is performed with deliberate intent, and there is fault when the wrongful act result from imprudence, negligence, lack of foresight, and lack of skill. Yan ang ano natin guys. Tapos next natin, dito naman tayo sa criminal liability. Criminal liability shall be incurred by any person committing a felony, although the wrongful act done be different from that which he intended. And the second is by any person performing an act which would be an offense against person or property, were it not be for the inherent of impossibilities of its accomplishment, or on account of the employment of inadequate or ineffectual means. And guys, yung natin, criminal liability. Then, sunod natin, ito yung consummated, uh, frustrated, and attempted felonies. Okay, guys. Consummated. Consummated as well as those which are frustrated and attempted are punishable. A felony is consummated when all a felony is consummated. Ay, tika lang guys ha. Inom muna ako. Okay. Sana tayo. Pero, consummated. Okay. Ito pala yun. A felony is consummated when all the elements necessary for its execution and accomplishment are present. And it is frustrated when the offender performs all the act for execution, which would produce the felony as a consequence, but which nevertheless do not produce it by reason of causes, independence of the will of the perpetrator. Sunod tayo, under pa rin siya ng consummated. There is attempt when the offender commences in the commission of a felony directly by overt act and does not perform all the act for execution. Sana tayo? Tika lang. Tingnan na lang natin. There is a attempt when the offender commences in the commission of the felony directly by overt act and does not perform all the act for execution, which would produce the felony by reason of some cause or accident. And then his own spontaneous desistance. Yan yung natin guys, yung consummated natin. Tapos sunod natin yung when light felonies are punishable. Okay. When light felonies are punishable. Light felonies are punishable only when they have been consummated, with the exception of those committed against person or property. Okay, next natin, conspiracy tayo guys. Conspiracy. Uh, conspiracy uh, only in the cases. Conspiracy only in the cases which the law especially provide a penalty. Therefore, conspiracy exists when two or more persons come to an agreement concerning in the commission of a felony. Uh, Ulitin natin. A conspiracy exists when two or more persons come to an agreement concerning in the commission of a felony and decide to commit it. Ah, okay na, yun na yun. Sunod natin, sa ano naman tayo? Proposal. Okay. There is a proposal when the person who has decided to commit a felony, proposes its execution to some other person or person. Sunod tayo guys, conspiracy tayo, no? Sunod natin. Dito naman tayo sa grave, less grave, and light grave felony. Okay. Grave felony. Grave felony to which the law attaches the capital punishment. The capital punishment or penalties to which any of their periods are afflictive in accordance of the Article 25 of this code. The second is less grave. Less grave felony which the law punishes with penalties which in their maximum periods are correctional in accordance of the above mentioned article. Yan guys yung grave, less grave at light grave felony natin. Tapos na tayo dyan sa felony. Punta naman tayo ngayon sa justifying circumstances. Okay. Justifying circumstances, ito yung circumstances, justifying circumstances with exempt from criminal liability. The following do not incur any criminal liability. Justifying circumstances. Okay guys, ano na tayo? Number 1. Anyone who act in defense of his person or right, provided that the following circumstances are present. Ito yung number one, ito yung unlawful aggression. Number two, reasonable necessity of the means employed to prevent or repel it. At saka yung susunod, ito yung lack of sufficient provocation on the part of the person defending himself. Ayan guys, yung number one. Number two naman tayo, ito yung anyone who act in defense of his person or right or his spouses, ascendant, descendant, or legitimate, natural, or adopted brother or sisters, or his relatives by affinity in the same degree, and those consanguinity within the fourth civil degree, provided that the first and second requisite mentioned in the next preceding circumstance are present. Dali lang guys. In the further requisite as in the further requisite in case that the provocation was given by the person attacked, that's the one making defense had no part therein. Yan yung number 2 guys. Number 3 natin, ito naman yung anyone who act in defense of the person or rights of a stranger, provided that the first and second requisite mentioned in the first preceding article are present, and that the person defending be not induce revenge, resentment, or other evil motive. Number 4 naman tayo guys. Ito yung number 4, ito yung lack of number 4 natin, ito naman yung any person who, in order to avoid an evil or injury, does an act which causes damage to another, provided that the following requisites are present. Meron tong tatlo guys. Una dito, that the evil sought to be avoided actually exists. Number 2, that the injury feared be greater than that done to avoid it. Then ang pangatlo natin, ito yung uh, that sufficient provocation or threat on the part of the person third pala natin, ito pala yung ano pala, mali yung isa. Ang third pala natin, ito yung that there be no other practical or less harmful means of preventing it. Yan guys. Number 5 naman natin, ito naman yung any person who act in the fulfillment of a duty or in the lawful okay, ito pala yun. Any person who act in the fulfillment of a duty or in a lawful exercise of a right or office. Then number 6, any person who act in obedience to an order issued by a superior for a lawful purpose. Yan guys, yung ano natin, justifying circumstances natin. Ngayon, punta naman tayo sa mitigating circumstances. Ito yung circumstances which mitigate criminal liability. Diyan tayo guys. Ito yung nasa chapter 3 ito. Okay. The following mitigating circumstances. The following are mitigating circumstances. Number 1, ito yung those mentioned in the preceding chapter when all the requisite necessary to justify the act or exempt from criminal liability in the respective cases are not attendant. Yan guys ang number 1. Number 2 naman tayo ngayon. Ito yung that the offender is under 18 years of age or over 70 years. In the case of the minor, he has be proceeded against in accordance with the provision of any Teka lang. Okay. In the accordance of the provision, okay, ulitin natin guys, number 2, that the offender is under 18 years of age or over 70 years. In the cases of the minor, he shall be proceeded against in accordance with the provision of Article 80. Number 3 natin, that the offender had no intention to commit so grave a wrong as that committed. Okay. Number 4 naman natin, ito yung number 4 natin, ito yung that sufficient provocation or threat on the part of the offended party immediately preceded the act. Number 5 natin, ito naman, number 5 natin, that the act is committed in the immediate vindication of a grave offense to the one committing the felony. That the one committing the felony delito, his spouse, ascendant, descendant, legitimate, natural, or adopted brother or sisters by affinity within the same degree. Yan yung number 5 natin. Sunod naman natin, ito yung that the offender had voluntarily surrendered himself to a person in authority or those he had voluntarily confessed his guilt before the court prior to the presentation of the evidence for the execution. The last one is that the offender is deaf and dumb, blind, otherwise suffering some physical defect, which those restrict his means of action, defense, or communication with his fellow being. Okay guys, dyan muna tayo sa ito muna yung may share ko na mitigating circumstances. Ngayon, share ko naman sa inyo sa susunod, i-share ko sa inyo yung susunod sa mitigating. Ang i-share ko sa inyo sa ngayon, yung sunod na i-share ko sa inyo, ito yung tungkol naman sa book 2 naman. Kasi itong ginawa natin, nasa book 1 lahat yan. Ngayon, book 2 naman. Itong book 2 ay ito yung makikita dito yung crimes and penalties ito sa book 2. Itong book 2, meron siyang 15 na title. Title 1 hanggang 15 yan. Okay. Ito namang book 2, ang number 1 ito yung Crimes Against National Security and the Law of the Nation. Number 2 naman ito yung Crimes Against Fundamental Law of the State. Nandiyan yung mga napapaloob dyan, nandiyan yung mga religious activity. May mga dyan about sa Tapos, Title 3 naman tayo, ito naman yung Crimes Against Public Order. Yan, marami rin nakalagay dyan, public order. Title 4 naman natin, ito yung Crimes Against Public Interest. Diyan papasok yung nandiyan yung mga forgeries natin. Yung mga counterfeit, ganyan, meron dyan. Basta forgeries siya. About sa yan. Basta forgeries ang dyan. Mga lahat ng nandyan. Yan yung number 4 natin, yung Crimes Against Public Interest. Ito naman yung number 5 natin, ito yung ito yung sumunod, ito yung relative to drugs. Ito yung about sa drugs ito, yung number 4. Ito yung dito mo makikita yung mga ng 9165. Okay. Number 6 naman tayo. Ito yung crimes against moral. Dito mo makikita yung gambling, mga bettings. Basta mga yan, mga sugal. Nandiyan lahat yan. Crimes against moral. Number 7 natin, ito naman yung preliminary title o crimes committed by public officer. Yan yung number 7. Tapos, number 8 natin, dyan naman yung crimes against person. Yan yung nandiyan yung mga destruction of life, nandiyan yung parasite, homicide, murder, etc. Meron dyan. Yan mo makikita sa crimes against person. Ito naman, sunod natin, crimes against individual liberty and security. Tapos, sunod natin, ito yung crimes against property. Diyan, napapaloob dyan yung robbery in general. Marami kang dyan, robbery in general, makikita mo. Crimes against property. Ito naman sunod, ito yung crimes against chastity. Ito yung napapaloob dyan, yung mga chastity. Diyan mo makikita yung adultery at concubinage. Yan yung mga kaso ng mga katulad ng adultery, yan yung mga kaso ng mga babae na may yung mga nangangaliwa ng mga babae, yan ang mga kaso nila, adultery. At saka yung concubinage naman, para sa lalaki yan. Yan yung mga kaso na para sa lalaki. Yung sa lalaki na may rin, may something. Alam nyo na siguro yun, guys. Tapos, crimes against, ito yung simulation of birth and usurpation of civil status. Diyan mo makikita yung ng pagkukunwari na halimbawa, kukunwari kang katulad ng illegal use of PNP and AFP uniform or insignia. Ayan, diyan mo rin makikita yan. Saka yung pag-aano ng pangalan, pagkukunwari na nagpapanggap ka, yan, ang pangalan mo, ganyan, nandiyan lahat. Tapos, sunod natin, ito yung crimes against honor. Diyan mo makikita yung libel, paninirang puri. Marami yan dyan, nakapaloob. Maraming article yan, guys. Pero pagdating ng araw, baka may share ko rin sa inyo Ang number 14 natin, ito yung quasi-offenses or criminal negligence. And the last one, Title 15, ito yung final provision. Diyan mo makikita yung mga final judgment na sinasabi, nandyan na lahat. Yan na yung pinakauling final provision yan. Hindi lang yung sinabi ko na marami yan. O yan yung mga tol. Sige, tol na lang. Yan ang mga nakapuloob sa Book 2, Title 1 to 15. Okay guys, next time, share ko ulit sa inyo yung doon tayo sa Book 1, marami pa yun. Kasi doon sa may penalties, may 5 rin doon. Yun yung penalties, ito yung penalties in general, classification of penalties, ganyan. Tapos meron pang yung application of penalties, alternative penalties. Yan, marami yan. 5 yan yung penalties, marami pa. Tapos nandun pa sa 4, civil liability yung ng Title 5, saka yung 4. Marami pa yan. Itong ko sa inyo pa lang yan. Okay guys, susunod ulit. I hope to na-absorb nyo kahit konti ang nasabi ko dito, mga nabanggit ko. Sana kung hindi nyo pa makuha, pwede nyo naman pabalik-balikin na panoorin. At saka sana i-like nyo naman itong video post ko mga guys, para rin ako mag-post sa inyo. Itong post na ito ito about law, kasi ito ang talagang nito yung mga, ako kasi criminology kasi ako, related yung mga subject ng criminology sa course na ito. Kung may plan kayo in the future na to be a lawyer, bagay sa inyo ito, pag-aralan nyo itong nasa revised penal code guys, kasi nandito lahat yung batas ng Pilipinas natin. Maganda kasi pag alam nyo lahat ito. Okay guys, good afternoon ulit. Kasi tingin ko mga mga alas 6 na, didilim na guys. Okay guys, thank you. See you again. Okay. Bye-bye.